Hi guys, I just wanted to do a quick video about different ways that we include school when we have to be out and about. Ideally with homeschooling, you would be home every single day and be able to just get all of the work done every single day, and every day would be perfect, but that's not always how it works. You still have to go places sometimes. You still have errands that you need to run. You still have appointments, like my dental appointment today. So I just got me thinking about different things that I do or try to do to make sure we're still getting school done when we're on the go. So when I was a homeschool student, I started in 4th grade. So most of my homeschool years, I was a little bit more independent, but I think by 4th, 5th grade, kids start to get a little more independent and it's easier just to take your work with you. So when I was a kid, I remember just taking my school books with us whenever we went anywhere and doing school that way, and it worked great. It's a little trickier when your kids are younger. Like my kids are all younger than 4th grade still, and so they're not as independent. They need me for a lot of their work, to explain it or to read to them or whatever. So when we do have errand days, it's a little tricky to get all our school done. But there's different things that I do to make sure that we're still getting some work done and getting our school in, even when I have to be on the go. So the first thing that I kind of keep in mind is that when I have an appointment day or an errand day, it's just going to be a lighter day. And not every homeschool day has to look exactly the same. We even just a regular week at home, there's some days that we do certain subjects and some days that we don't. So not every day has to look the same. And if I know that we're going to have an appointment or something, I'll just kind of plan for that day to be a lighter day. We might try to get more done earlier in the week or whatever, just to keep us on track. But I just expect us to not get as much work done, or I plan for lighter subjects on that day, things like that, just to make it a little easier day if I know we're not going to be home for part of the day. And especially for our family, we live a little bit farther away from town, so whenever we need to do errands or go to an appointment, we have to drive 40 minutes or so to wherever we're going. So usually by the time we get home, half the day is gone. So that's why I'd make it a lighter day, and that's perfectly fine, because different days than when we're home and we're on a roll, we get maybe a lot more done than I thought, or get a lot more work in. And then so by the end of the year, it all balances out. The light days and the heavier days and the average days, it all balances out at the end of the year. So I keep that in mind, and that's fine. So I might plan for it to be a lighter day, but before we leave, the second thing I try to make sure I do is grab any worksheets or things like that the kids can do in the car independently. So with our different curriculum, there's different maybe worksheets to accompany the lessons or copy work, things like that I know my kids can handle doing by themselves. I'll grab all those and get them ready, give them the little rundown on what I want them to get done in the car, and they can work on it while we're driving, which works out fine and great. So that's just something I try to do before we leave when we have a day on the go. The third thing I do is I might try to think about if I have any audio resources that would go with what we're learning that we could just listen to in the car. So if we have like a read aloud, I might try to find it on audio, or if I know we're studying a certain subject in history, I might see if I have any stories or things like that on audio that we can listen to in the car. Or podcasts are great too, if you have any podcasts that are related to what you're learning. Sometimes I'll search a subject. There's a lot of educational podcasts out there. Sometimes I might preview it if I think far enough ahead, just to make sure I like the podcast. But my kids like listening to those when we can find ones that are kind of related to things we're already learning, and I think it works out really well. Sometimes with audio resources, my kids might get distracted in the car, so I might just tell them ahead of time, okay, when we're done with this chapter or podcast or whatever, I want you to be able to tell me what you learned, so pay attention and listen. And then I'll have them narrate back to me afterward. If you know anything about Charlotte Mason, it's the narration thing, so we might do that after a podcast or after a chapter of our audiobook or whatever, just to make sure they're listening and retaining things. But that's another thing I might try to do. The fourth thing I do is I'll bring the iPad and let them do some educational games when we're on the go. I don't let my kids do the iPad games very often, just when we're at home. But when we are on the go, that's a good time to pull them out, I think. Especially if I have an appointment or something and I need to keep them busy while I'm getting my teeth cleaned or whatever, I will pull out the iPad and maybe let them do some games or things like that. If you can get any, like, even videos downloaded to your iPad or phone or whatever you have, sometimes I think that helps too, to have a documentary or whatever that they could watch too. So just different things like that that I know we could do on the go on the iPad. Keep them busy, keep them learning and thinking about whatever subject we're studying. And then the fifth thing I'll do sometimes is, as we're out and about, I'll kind of keep in mind if there's any places we could stop that would be like an educational stop. So like the library. When we have appointments or errand days, I try to make sure that we also go to the library if we can on those days. It just is good to combine the trip, to be a little more efficient with our time that way. And also the library is definitely educational time, looking for books that are related to what we're learning and things like that. I definitely write those down in our records whenever we make a library visit, and what books we've got and things like that that we might have read. So we might stop at the library. There's historic parks. Sometimes there's like quick museums that are like easy to go in and out. So if we have time, or if we are going to be out for a good portion of the day, I might include something like that just as almost a mini field trip day sort of thing. And then there's other ways you can just make regular errands educational, like even going to the grocery store. Sometimes I have my oldest son add up the costs of everything for me, and that's good little math practice right there while we're shopping. So things like that that you can include in your day while you're on the go still would be things that I would record for school, and that totally count for school. And like I said, it's just a different sort of school day, but it's all homeschooling, and even on those occasional days when you need to be out and about, you can still get things done and get some learning in. So those are my thoughts. If you guys have any other suggestions or ideas for ways that you can still battery's low, for the ways that you can still get some learning in while you're on the go, especially with younger kids, because with older kids they can just bring their work with them. It's a little trickier with younger kids who aren't independent. So any tips, please tell me. But that's my thoughts. Okay, bye.